All right, class. So welcome to the first of our distance learning economics videos or lectures. Today, we are going to be going over scarcity, which is an absolutely fundamental component of economics. And so this kind of forms the bedrock of our understanding for the entire course ahead. So we'll go through this. You guys can, instant message me with any questions you might have as we progress through. Most of this, you guys are going to take down your responses in your Google Classroom notebook. I will have a couple of questions here that I'm going to have you guys IM me as we progress. At any rate, you can always email me if you need further clarification over any of these concepts that we're going over. All right, so let's start. So here we go, scarcity. So first off, what is economics? Let's start with that, a real broad base. And I want you guys to write this down in the instant message window for now and just see what you guys come up with and give you a couple minutes and then we'll go over this. Or I'll provide you kind of an official definition. All right. Seeing a few of you guys do this. Good. Okay, all right. Not bad. You guys have a pretty good idea already. Okay, so here, economics is simply the study of how people seek to satisfy needs and wants by making choices among scarce resources. So this issue of scarcity is fundamental, as you can see, to economics as a whole. This is how we choose, and we choose based on what is scarce, what is not scarce, and whether we are willing to spend certain amounts of money on things that are scarce. All right, so here's what I want you guys to come away with. Basically, why is scarcity and choice? How are they the basis? Explain to me, why that is the case. Tell me what entrepreneurs are and their role in society. Differences between physical and human capital, how those two differ, and how we want you to be able to explain, factors of production. How does something get to you? And then how do you guys make choices on purchasing that particular good or item? Okay, here are our key terms for our first lesson. Now, these terms will be up on Google Classroom. I'll just have you guys fill these in along with a definition into a Google assignment on Google Classroom. So those will be due by this Friday. All right, so scarcity, essentially, this is we're jumping right in here, okay? So scarcity is about making choices. And so what I want at the bottom of the screen there, here is something I want you guys to answer in the instant message window. So I want you to think of a time in your life where you wanted to buy multiple things, but you only had money for one. What did you choose? Okay, so I'm talking like you're out, you are faced with a dilemma. You only have so much money, you can only buy the one thing, and you had to make a choice. So go ahead and take a few minutes here and start just writing down a few of these scenarios that you guys have been involved in. Okay, all right. A lot of these look like differences between, food and something that you don't necessarily need. So basically, I'm starting to already see the difference between needing and wanting. Okay, so let's keep going here. So scarcity means making choices, all right? Unlimited wants, limited resources. We want it all, okay? But we just don't have unlimited resources, most of us. But it's really important to remember, scarcity does not necessarily mean a shortage, okay? So scarcity is really, it's contingent, it's situational, okay? Prime example, there's no actual shortage of toilet paper in the world right now, but with coronavirus raging, people are having a hard time obtaining toilet paper. There is no shortage per se. There is a scarcity. That means it's not accessible to you. All right, so remember that distinction. Okay, so let's take a look at this video here and tell me what this means about scarcity. Okay, so right there we see water coursing through a desert. Okay, so water is extremely scarce in a desert until it's not. Now that affects its value. Do you think the people who are being faced with this wall of water think that the value of the water is terribly high? No. But there's two ways to die in the desert. You can die of thirst, or you can die from a flash flood. So it's a very ironic situation. So bear that in mind as we talk about supplies. Okay, so it is situational and very unexpected sometimes about the value of something based on its availability. Okay, so scarcity, coming back to the issue of choice. Now, here's a really easy one to think about. Okay, so we have some high-end Yeezys, these shoes here, the new iPhone. Okay, these are really nice items. Okay, and I'm sure some of you guys have considered purchasing these things. But really think about these two items and then thinking about these. All right. Now, you guys are going to be in a situation, if you haven't already been, where you are having to think, okay, am I going to buy these high dollar luxury items, things that are not necessary for life, or am I going to buy food? Okay. So that's another issue of scarcity. Okay. Which do you choose? All right. So back to choices. All right. So here we have a global perspective, various nations here. Now, all nations face scarcity of some type. Now, we're just looking at a few here, but we notice that the United States, it has a shortage of petroleum. So what do we do? Where do we go? Okay. Most often people say, oh, well, we go over here to Saudi Arabia. We get the fuel from them. Now, Saudi Arabia, what do they have a shortage of? All right, probably grain and other food items. So we engage in exchange. All right, so that's for a later lesson. But right now, we're just looking at scarcity. Now here we have Germany. And so here's the question: what might be a possible cause of scarcity of what? Skilled labor. All right, so Germany, a rich nation. Why does it have a problem with skilled labor? Now, for our purposes here, I'll just go ahead and provide some possible scenarios here. But most people don't think that Germany would have a problem with skilled labor. They think of automobiles, heavy industry, highly intensive skilled labor workforce. However, they do also have great education. So again, what can this mean? Maybe it means that their economy is expanding so quickly because of this, healthy industry, that it's expanding faster than the local population's ability to fill those positions. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Also, maybe because Germany has such a good trade educational program, that those German workers are able to find work elsewhere for higher pay. So again, not necessarily a bad thing. So they do face scarcity, but there's more to this story than just simply not having enough. Okay, now let's move on to the issue of the entrepreneur. Now, we all have heard of entrepreneurs. This is a pretty common word. Um, and simply put, I just want you guys to write down in your Google Classroom notebook the underlined part here. Okay, so entrepreneurs are people who decide how to combine resources to create new goods and services. Now we see these pictures of entrepreneurs, and the typically we revere the wealthy among them, but we don't really think about what it is that they do. So simply put, they combine resources to make more money. All right, and we'll get to that in a second. But here are just a few entrepreneurs that I think most of you guys probably know. Now, Bill Gates, of course, we know him as the founder of Microsoft. Now, he is literally one of the wealthiest human beings in all of human history. So he came up with quite the product, but he was also able to get all of the resources together necessary to make his product so preeminent. And here we have Henry Ford, famous automaker, Ford Motor Company, very wealthy individual. All right, here we have Elon Musk. Okay, so he is best known for his Tesla, electric automobile, but he's also ventured into space exploration. Um, he was the founder of PayPal, so he has had all kinds of ideas. But he was really good at getting the resources together to make his product. All right, and then Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, we've all heard of him too, founder of Facebook. Okay, so each of these individuals utilized factors of production in different ways, but all of them did so successfully. All right, so an entrepreneur uses the factors of production. Now, here are the factors of production: land, labor, capital, and the effectiveness of capital. So all entrepreneurs use these four things and combine them effectively, because if you don't have a successful business, that's an indicator that the entrepreneur failed to use one of these factors successfully. Okay, so here's our first one. Now this is specific to Nevada, the American West at large, but this is a gold mine. This happens to be in northern Nevada. This is how a modern day gold mine looks. Now clearly land is a major element of this economic venture. So if you don't have land for a gold mine, then you have nothing. Okay, that's literally where the resource lies. So here we have land, and this is just a really obvious example of the need for land. Okay, but mines have always needed land. Now here's a historic example from Virginia City. We see kind of the classic example, or like what we think mines are, these tunnels underground. So again, we need land just for the mine itself, but think about these timbers. Okay, this is called square set timbering. Now this was a major innovation in the 1800s, and it allowed for tunneling massive areas, and they could get much more gold in this way, because they had the reinforcement to shore up the cavern. Now this wood came from Lake Tahoe. So the Lake Tahoe Basin was another element of the land necessary for making the gold mines work. And if you see old pictures of Lake Tahoe, the entire region's been clear cut. Not a tree exists. Okay, all that Tahoe timber found its way here under the mountain in Virginia City. All right, here's labor. These are miners from the 1880s. Okay, shirtless, because going underground was very hot in those mountains. Okay, but you needed these guys to go down there to get that layer, to get those minerals, in order to make the business work. Without these laborers, you had nothing. Okay, so a vital piece of the puzzle. Right, now, capital. You need money to invest. You need to buy the equipment. You need to buy the land. You need to be able to pay for getting materials to and from the mining site. So you have capital. In the case of Virginia City, you had the Bank of California, William Ralston here. an entrepreneur, he was able to get money from this bank and then buy all kinds of material to make the mine work. And then you also have to have food production too. Okay, so here's a farm in the Carson Valley below Virginia City. You had to have food to make that operation work. In turn, you needed to make sure that you had labor and land and capital for farms too. Okay, so every little business requires these parts. And then the effectiveness of capital, the transportation, the birth of cities, the capital, all of that needs to work seamlessly in order to make a successful business. Okay, so here we have a timeline and some more contemporary examples. All right, so down here, the timeline shows entrepreneurs in media and technology analyze information. Choose one of these entrepreneurs and name the factors of production you think he or she might have used. Okay, I've asked you this question on Google Classroom, so use the online version of the text. Find me the necessary information to be able to explain something about Oprah, Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, all right? So those will be due, that's part of our overall assignment that's gonna be due on Friday on Google Classroom. All right, now here are the factors of production, okay? So here, what does an entrepreneur do? Recognizes a need or a want. Mark Zuckerberg, or I'm sorry, Elon Musk realized people needed a secure way to purchase things, either with eBay or other online commerce. And so he came up with PayPal, which was a secure way of exchanging goods for money. All right, so he recognized that need. So he got together land, labor, capital. Okay, so the land, you know, he's going to have some type of place, mostly in this case, you know, we're talking office space, but labor, he's going to need computer programmers, accountants, lawyers, and then the capital too. Okay, so he's going to have to put together all of this software, make sure that it's secure. All right, and he's going to have to get this all effectively utilized in order to provide the good and the service. Now he did, but a lot of people don't. Okay, so it's a risky thing sometimes to be an entrepreneur. You sometimes lose a lot of money. All right, so another factor of production here, we're talking education. Okay, so education and training increase human capital. Okay, so you guys, my students, are increasing your value right now through education. You're becoming more valuable to the economy at large simply by learning what I'm teaching you. All right, so you guys have this. Let me just read it for you. All right, all goods and services are scarce because the resources used to produce them are scarce. Consider a fresh sandwich made at a restaurant. The sandwich roll might have started as wheat in a field in Kansas and then milled into flour and later baked in an oven. The cheese might have been made from milk from Wisconsin cows, and the chicken may have been raised in Arkansas. The lettuce and tomatoes may have been grown in California. All of these ingredients may have been shipped to a restaurant in Seattle, where a chef made the sandwich and served it to a hungry customer. Now, we don't think that the chickens, the cheese, any of that stuff is actually in short supply, but it could be not readily accessible to this chef right here. Okay, this is all she has right now. All of this stuff is there's plenty of it, just not accessible right now. Okay, so all resources are scarce. It's a matter of getting them to the customer. Okay, so for our purposes, we're just going to go through this quiz right now. Normally, I would have my students do this on a separate assignment, but right now we're just going to go in real time. Okay, so let's make this your ticket out the door. Okay, what is the term used to describe a temporary low supply of a good or service? All right, let's see here. All right, it's not a want, certainly not a need, but it's scarcity. Okay, so that's the fundamental thing that you guys need to be able to know. from today's lesson? Okay, what factor of production is being affected here? If you've taken a course on web design, we just talked about this. Okay, not entrepreneurship, not physical capital, and not land. This is human capital. Okay, education is improving the value of the human. Now, again, we're talking economically. Okay, I'm not talking morally, but economically, the more that a human being is educated, the more value they have to the economy. And lastly, which of these would be an alternative use for farmland? And we're actually seeing a major, this is a major theme in American Western history right now, is the conversion of farmland for other uses. Now, what do you think that you could use it for? Okay. Skilled labor, not it's human capital. Oh, an amusement park. Okay, so we're actually seeing a lot of farmland in the West being gobbled up for urban use, usually for homes and whatnot. But think about, for those of you in Southern California, you've seen Knott's Berry Farm. You've heard about this. That literally was a berry farm at one time. Now it's a huge amusement park. And even Disneyland was, paved amongst acres and acres of orange groves back in the 1950s. Okay, so this concludes our first lesson for econ this semester. Now, I want you guys to check in your Google Classroom right now. I've put in 3 assignments. Okay, so I want you to go through those, complete those, and those are going to be all due by this Friday. Now, if you guys have any questions over this, just send me a remind or an email, and we can maybe set up a Zoom meeting or Skype, and I can walk you through a couple of the concepts here. That's it. Next time, we'll be going over supply and demand. Till then, take care.